Tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnā tātou e te iwi, Che Wilson here from Te Pai Pai Waho, connecting to you tonight through a number of platforms to share a bit of tupuna wisdom and to hopefully take us on a journey back to the future. But before I do that, I'll just open us up and then we'll get into things. Maia maranga wakarangona te rangi e tū nei, maia maranga wakarangona te papea takutoa ke nei. Mai are are wakatupua, nuku mai are are wakatupua rangi, e ue nei ki te pau o te pai pai wao, e tū nei. Tenei te pō nau mai te ao. Turuturo hiti waka maua kia tīna hui e tāiki e. Tāiki e kia tātou, kia ora everybody. As I said, Che Wilson here from Te Pai Pai Waho. And as I connect you through a range of platforms tonight, firstly, e tangi ana e mii ana kia tātou katoa, o tira e tangi ana oki ki ngā mate o te wā. Auntie Sylvia, ko koe tēnā e oki tika atu ana ki te wā kāinga, ki roto kia tāu o ngā tiruaka, koea te aotanga ki a koe e moe. Tatu atu ki tērā mate nui o te motu, ko Sean Wainui, mau te tangatara. Oi anō ko kōrua ko koutou ki te pō, tātou tēnei e mii atu ana, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou. So kia ora everybody. It's been pretty warm up here in Waikato, and while we're in lockdown, this month has been really warm, and even though we had the cold bite last week, that coldness didn't get right up to here. So Pare te Taitonga did his thing. Ruapehu, I pare I te Taitonga. He warded off the strength of the southerly. So though we felt a little bit of it, we didn't get the whole punch that you normally get when it's in winter. But yeah, the last few days here in Hamilton have been really warm, and and I've noticed just how much my garden's starting to just be awesome. And over the next few days / week, I'll be planting some things that I haven't planted, that I haven't grown before. So I'll be growing calabashes or hue calabashes, and then hue kamo. I tried them last year for the first time and failed. But I think I got it sorted this time around. And I'm also going to be trying planting some kumara. So looking forward to how that goes over the next couple of days. Anyway, let's get into it. So Back to the Future. I titled this session Back to the Future and Horizons and Stars. Simply because it can be too easy to be like this, be blinkered, to just stick to one view or stick to one way of doing things. And especially when it comes to tikanga. No, that's not how you do it. No, can't do it this way. No, can't do it that way. It's just how it's done. And yes, the legacy that our tupuna have given us is essential to guiding where we go to tomorrow. The key thing for me, though, and I remember my elders always talking about focusing on the principles. The moment you the moment you give do's and don'ts, you get into a sticky situation. And I've shared this in the past, because the next hui is going to be different to the one that you set the do's and don'ts for. And what I want to talk about is there's so much in the culture that talks about horizons and looking to the stars, looking to the heavens. And and specifically, how do we keep a strategic view and how do we use our peripheral view? so that we are mindful of what's coming and nothing then is a surprise. And don't get me wrong, there will be the odd surprise, but that generally we should be able to pivot. And as we pivot, we should be able to go to a place where we can at least be open to the kōrero being presented to us based on kōrero tukuiho. One example I know, I got to London. I lived in London in the early 2000s. And one of the bros who knew me from Aotearoa, bro, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Your skills are better used at home. Look, helping our people and all of that. Number one, I was there to have some fun. Number two, I was in love. And number three, my response was, "He reo nā kupe." And as soon as I said that, the bro got it. Oh, shame. Here's me and my narrow mind. And when I say he reo nā kupe, he reo nā turi, or whoever else, what I mean is that our tupuna travelled the world. And I'm not talking necessarily about the ones that arrived here, but we have a legacy where our tupuna travelled the largest water body in the world. And therefore, that gives you a perspective on life and how to adapt. And it helps give you a strategic view and widens the peripheral view. And if you look at the tūtei, the sentry, the hetiri, the tūtei that stands on the pātū watawata, on a fortified pā, their role is to look out. But the other part of their role isn't to just look out. It's to also watch the signs, because they would have pet rats, pet birds that would be outside of the pā that would then come in when things had changed. And their behaviour, or the fact that they returned, told people that something was up or somebody might be out there. And so the whole ethic of observation meant that when you're presented with something different, the response isn't, "Oh no, that's not how we do it." But the response is, "Oh, what does that mean? How do I work that out? How do I look at it?" And that, "Oh, how do I," isn't a, "No, I'm not going to do this." What it is, okay, how do I adapt to the situation? Oh, chew, my boy. And how do I adapt to the situation? And a classic example of how we do adapt is the tangihanga muscle. Because depending on the situation, we will make it work. We will make it work to ensure that the mana of the tūpāpaku, of the whānau, of the hapu, of the marae, of the rōpū, and then whoever's coming on, are not only kept intact, but elevated where possible. And that's because we are able to adapt. And when you look at the role of the tūtei helps to look out and then feeds information in to help people assess and make decisions. In addition to that, if you look at all of the references to maramataka, and you've got a whole heap of people sharing knowledge about maramataka and stars and the seasonal cycles, all of that knowledge helps us to see past the basic view. And what I will always do is, when I'm looking at the heavens at night, is I will look and I won't make any assessment until I've waited a while, because then I get to see a full picture. If I just look quickly, that doesn't give me a full picture. It just gives me a flash. And in addition to that, your eyes are usually adjusting. So you have to allow your eyes to adjust so that you can see what's out there, not just in the night sky, but even in the daytime, that you're looking out. And as you look out, you're looking for more than what might be initially in front of you. And then when it comes to strategic conversations, based on that teaching of looking out, seeing what the changes are, seeing what the difference are, looking out and taking your time to view, you then take that into a meeting, into a gathering, into decision making. And as you're reading or as you're listening, you then look and hear for what's not being said, so that you allow intuition to connect with logic. Because sometimes this fellow up here gets in the way. And one thing I do know is that intuition, or your puku, will never fail you. This fellow up here might be a bit noisy and will convince you that the puku is saying one thing when actually it's not like that. So as we go into the future, I think it's important for us to look to the past, and I'm not saying the last 50 or 100 years, but ngā kura huna kua wākina mai rā I roto I nei wakatupuranga. The ancient knowledge that is returning, let's look to that to see how it can guide us, and how it can guide us to not necessarily stick our feet in the mud, or to not necessarily do things which take us to a funny place. Instead, how do we use the ancient knowledge to help us to be ready to utilize that strategic view to help make decisions around what's impacting us now and what's going to impact us tomorrow? Because there's a heap of stuff out there. It's coming left, right, and centre. And some people are going, I never realised. When actually, if we take our time and use our tupuna observation to make observations of what's happening in our world generally, that should take us to a safer place where we are able to then adapt and pivot to the situation, to the kaupapa of te wā, my England. So, yeah, it's a start of something anyway. I asked Missy what to talk about. She said, well, what about that strategic view? So, ka te ake te iwi. Stay safe. For those of you, Tai Tokerau and everyone south of Waikato, enjoy your Labour weekend. Who knows what will happen for us this Friday, but my aroha still goes out to Tāmaki Makaurau. But whoever is having a Labour weekend, enjoy it, take care, and be safe, and don't be idiots. And finally, e mihi ana kia Dame Cindy Kiro, kua eke ki runga ki te taumata, hei kāwana tianara, kua kei te taupatupatu a roto e pāna ki te kuini, oiano. Just want to send out a shout out also to Dame Cindy Kiro tonight. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, e te iwi e mi I kauatu ana, I roto I tēnei pō, tēnā koutou. Kia o kaere ake ngā kupu ki te tā nui o rangi nui e tūnei. Wiria te rangi e tūnei, wiria te papai takoto nei. Wiria te kupu, wiria te kōrero, wiria te wānanga o tēnei pō. Wiria auta, wiria atai, wiria kia rangi nui e tūnei. Turuturo, witi o ka maua kia tīna, hui e, tāi ki e. Kia ora tātou, be safe everybody, pō Māori re.